Good afternoon. This is David at Table Talk once again. My wife is here with me, not video ready yet, but she's getting there. We had an amazing service today, and the Lord just really, gave some confirmation in areas and direction dealing with Joseph and listening to and watching how he stood for something and how eventually what he stood for, what he believed in, ends up having him dismissed from his family, taken away. He's enslaved, and he's put in in Potiphar's house, from Potiphar's house to prison, from prison to the palace, from palace to being second in command of everything. And there's a beautiful story there of how he came to love his captors, and not to love them in the sense of, oh, he gave up on who he was, but to love them in the sense of God calls us to love our enemies. He calls us to do just and to do right by them, that even those that despitefully misuse you, God says in his word. So the blessing of that is I had an opportunity to teach this message, or teach this particular part of a message to the men at Haven House. And we talked about how when Joseph went on the other side of the wall, when his brothers came into the palace and he sees who they are and he knows them, they don't recognize him. And in that sense and in that moment, he has an opportunity to administer justice to them. He has an opportunity to get them back. And Joseph does something that is amazing. He takes Christ's full concept of liberty and justice, because he has liberty to do whatever he wants to do. But he has justice as it's appointed through Christ to love your enemies, to not despitefully misuse them. So he has an opportunity to do something, but he has man going on the inside. So he's hurting on the inside. And so he goes on the other side of the wall. It says that when they came in the room, Joseph's brothers come in and he recognizes them. They don't recognize him. That hurt from the injustice hits him. That hurt from some 12 to 18 to 30 years that he spent between a well and prison and being dejected and rejected. And God has told him who he's going to be. And he's in this situation where he's dismissed, where he's shackled, hands and feet. And all those things come back to his memory when they walk in the room. And we saw the part in Joseph as the movie where he's thrown down in the well, and my wife and I, both our hearts break immediately, because we think of our children, and we think of our sons. We think of how alone, how scared he had to have been. And when he sees his brothers, he remembers the darkness of that well. He remembers the shackles. He remembers being rejected. He remembers that God told him something, but he's not seeing any of it, but he's faithful to God anyway. And he goes to the other side of the wall because he has an opportunity to get justice for himself. Man, God gives me a revelation of how he goes to that side of the wall and he has that conversation with God concerning how he felt. And he comes back, and he does some things that gets them to bring his dad and his younger brother, because he wants them all there. And then he finally reveals himself to everyone, who he is. And God is saying, can everyone see who you really are? Could you really reveal yourself? Because liberty and justice for all is for all. It's not for some. Lot made the mistake when he was at the gate as a judge doing Sodom and Gomorrah. In Sodom, Lot made the mistake of becoming more like everyone around him, and that's why everything was acceptable, and he didn't judge righteously. We can't judge based on how we stand politically. We can't judge based on our race. We can't judge based on our color. We can't judge if we're believers. I'm not talking to people who aren't believers. You do you until you find out that you are not you. You are who God created you to be, and you're acting out of a person who's lost and who doesn't know who Jesus is and doesn't know his love for you. The pain that you're feeling when you're running around and you're burning and you're pillaging and you're raping and you're killing and you're doing these things is because you're running from a brokenness that's within you. Joseph finally realized that brokenness wasn't who he was. Christ is who he was. A believer is who he is. God made him a promise, and he settled into that promise being real. We don't have to like the things going on around us today. Many of us don't, but we don't for the wrong reasons. We don't because somebody tells us that we shouldn't. We don't because somebody tells us that we should oppose this person or this thing. We don't even go back to the Bible to see what God says about it. But God says if we seek him first, he'll add everything else. Matthew 6:33. He tells us over in Proverbs, again, 3, 5, and 6. What do you say in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6? He tells us to trust and to lean. And he's going to give us the things that we need, understanding, wisdom, all the things that we're going to need to make wise decisions daily. I love you and God bless you. And I don't think that he does this moment at this table just so I can sit here and speak to you or speak at you. Because see, when I'm walking in my sin and my spiritual dad and other people are speaking to me, I feel like they're speaking at me, and I got an issue with that. I got an issue when you're trying to call me out because I'm not standing up for what you think I should stand up for. Today I stand up for what's real. Liberty and justice for all is real. It was something that was put in the Constitution, but it was extracted from God's word. The preamble, extracted from God's word. Were we always a Christian nation? I don't know that we've ever been a Christian nation. Not every one of those men who signed was a Christian. But I think we can walk Christ-like as believers in this world because that's what God calls us to. And he says everywhere we shall tread, he'll give it to us. We've stopped walking. There's your problem. We've stopped marching. Jericho, the walls didn't fall because they sat back in their seat and said, we're going to pray kumbaya till Jesus comes. They did not. They got up and they walked. They marched. Okay, I wasn't supposed to get excited. But I'm here to tell you that we should be praying for God's will to be done. Not for what I want to be done. Not what I want to be done. I'll tell you this, because my wife doesn't mind. My wife put up Christmas decorations yesterday. I helped her. And, first time in 4 or 5 years, she's had that Christmas spirit and just wanting to see that beauty in her home and have her children experiencing my children, our grandchildren, and she's excited about that. And she puts a tree up, and it's not a white tree with lights that are in it that she never takes down. Even when I meet her, she still had that tree up. It's probably 3 years old because it's not even the heart to take it down. At some point, she was waiting on Christmas to come. She didn't even know it. But as she's putting everything up and she's getting her boxes, I'm getting my boxes, and she's putting the tree up, and I'm just like, baby, just put it up. Whatever you like, that's fine. She said, but I know you got stuff that you want to put on the tree. And in me, I'm going, no, I really don't. I'm good. Because I'm a man, and we just have that innate power in us to just go, everything's all right. When everything's not always all right. And she finally convinces me to get some of my boxes out, and she takes some of my stuff and she begins to put it up and stuff, and she begins to weep, and I begin to look at her like a man. Honey, are you okay? This shouldn't be a sad moment. This should be a happy moment. You're getting your Christmas up. You're getting to do your stuff. She goes, I'm hurting for you. I know this has to be hard for you. And yes, the beautiful thing is on the top of our tree, my wife put an angel that I've had on the top of our Christmas tree since 2006. And we are blessed that we go through a season of hurt and a season of healing, and we'll watch our nation do the same thing. But what we have to be able to do is what my wife showed me yesterday. We have to be able to love outside of ourselves. We have to be able to hurt for a people in a situation that we don't understand, that we can't change. But we're going to love it to be better than it was when we found it. We have the same responsibility as believers in this nation today. And I share with you our personal, intimate things because I want you to know we serve a true, personal, and intimate God who loves us above and beyond anything that we can imagine. Judge righteously. Use God's word as your basis. Not the hate that we've learned to amass and acquire and hold on to. Because hate transcends time. Love heals all wounds. And if you want to be a better nation, we better love better tomorrow. God bless you. Table Talk. Have a great day.